Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our live webinar. Welcome to the In-Store Tech Solutions webinar, where we're going to be discussing the new must-know trends for 2022 and beyond with Google, Trax, and Oriient. I am Ronit Wolf, and I make part of the Oriient marketing team, and I will be your moderator for our time together. I will quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have Paul Tepfanhart, who's the Director of Global Retail Solutions at Google, who's recognized as the #1 cloud provider for retailers by Canalys. We have Ariel Cohen joining us from Trax, who is the Director of Strategic Alliances, and Trax is pioneering the automized shelf. And last but not least, we have Mickey Balter, who's the CEO and co-founder at Orient Indoor GPS, who is revolutionizing indoor positioning technology. And before I hand it off to our first panelist, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what to expect today. Here's our agenda. So Paul is going to start us off with a little tour, a lightning tour of retail, what happened in the last 2 decades versus now, as well as what it takes to win in this new retail landscape. Then we're going to hand it over to Mickey from Orient, who's going to talk to us about the concept of the phygital store. Then we'll go over to Ariel from Trax, who's going to talk to us about the missing data set to power new retail. We're going to close it off with a little glimpse into the future, what we should expect in the next 2 to 3 years, and some advice for our retailers. And we're going to do a live 10-minute Q&A session at the end. So it would be great to get some of your questions in. You should see a little Q&A box where you can start inputting your questions as they come up, and we'll just queue them towards the end, or you could just save them towards the end as well. So yes, before I hand it over to Paul over at Google, I wanted to ask him to guide us through how have consumer demands changed over the past 2 decades? How are retailers responding? And specifically over the past 2 years, why were those the most transformative years for the retail and grocery industries? Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Ronit. Great to be here today, and a warm welcome to all our guests joining us on the In-Store Tech Solutions webinar here. I'm Paul Tepfanhart, the Director of Global Retail Industry Solutions at Google Cloud, and I can unequivocally say customer expectations have changed a great deal, period. Think about a grocery store. Spin around in the middle of that store and tell me if it's 1950 or 2010. And the truth is, it would be hard to tell. If you look back in time, you'll find out that in 1914, a little company called Alpha Beta, out of California, really pioneered the idea of coming and shopping along the shelves. But here's their customer-centric idea. They organized the shelves alphabetically, so you can imagine shopping in that environment. In 1916, Piggly Wiggly kind of set the modern way out of their Memphis store, and they provided really the first self-service where we were shopping by category approach. And that honestly has stuck with us for, the better part of 120 years. In the last 5 years, it's really brought tremendous change where the status quo had existed for the previous century. Shopping carts were an innovation in the 30s, coupons in the 50s, and format and footprints in the 80s and 90s, but it didn't really start hopping until recently. Consumers want choices, personalization, ease of shopping, low to no friction, and convenience. And to the extent that retailers meet these needs, they're going to flourish and thrive. Certainly 2020 and 2021 really changed the game for grocery as the pandemic caused a dramatic shift in the way consumers shopped. Most significantly was digital commerce, which captured 3 to 4 times the sales in just a few short months. We know this story, but do you know 68% of new digital grocery customers now consider digital to be the permanent part of their shopping routine? It's here to stay. And so the challenge for physical grocers is to see how to bring the joy of shopping back to the store so that they can stay relevant. Let's go to the next slide. What's my advice in all this? Stop thinking channel. It's about really creating all the benefits that customers want by leveraging digital technology in the store experiment. experience. Digital transformation is accelerating, and retailers are thinking differently about technology. It's driving omni revenue growth. It's driving better decisions through data and machine learning through artificial intelligence. It's also about digitally transforming the physical store and, of course, fueling operational improvements to deal with the rising costs. There's no longer a choice whether to play or not in digital commerce and omni-channel experiences. It's fundamental. It's now table stakes to deliver on the experiences and convenience your customers are seeking. Ronit, let me hand it to you because I'd like to hear from our guests.
Thank you, Paul. So with that, we thought it would be fun to get a little insight from our audience, you guys, and we'd love some participation in our poll. We're going to get it started right now. I am going to walk you through our answers, but we would love participation, so this will help guide our conversation today. So what's the biggest challenge your organization is facing when you're bridging the online-offline gap that is so important today? A, we don't fully understand what our shoppers are doing in the store. B, we are struggling scaling our operations in store to match what's happening online, the online transactions. C, there's too many solutions out there, help, we need guidance on what fits us best. Or D, the last one, we need to better understand the benefit cost ratio of the in-store tech solutions. Again, we'd love participation from our audience, so this will help us guide our conversation today. I'll give you another 30 seconds to answer, and then I will share the results.
Do you have any of that fun countdown music, Ronit?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, okay.
10, 9, okay, 10 more seconds. If it was hard to pick one, if you have multiple challenges, try to pick the top one, and we'll make sure to address it. Okay, it looks like the top challenge is understanding the benefit cost ratio of in-store tech solutions, which is great because it's something we will touch upon in our conversation today. So thank you. Alrighty, so before handing it over to Paul again, as an industry leader in this space, Google Cloud providing and enabling some of the best in-store tech solutions out there, Paul, what are some of the biggest pain points that you are seeing in shopping today?
Yeah, one of my biggest pain points was trying to figure out which out of those 4 poll questions I should select, because I think they were all pretty relevant. But, you know, when I think about the biggest pain points, you know, honestly, my colleagues on this panel are great examples of companies making huge strides to solve some of those big pain points. When I think about the areas of opportunity, it would be out of stock at the store shelves. It's substitutions on my BOPIS, my curbside. It's when I'm walking through the store, finding the item I want. I never go to the store without asking at least one associate, you know, where is the whatever. Promotional spam, real pain in the rear. I get 40 offers. I really, there was probably 2 or 3 that were relevant. Why can't we do better? And then ultimately friction in the shopping journey. I mean, why are there lines in store in 2022? That makes no sense. We really need to bring the physical up to the caliber of what the digital tools are. And honestly, that's what customers are saying now, because they've gotten used to all the personalization and all the benefits of shopping in the digital space. So with that, I'll kick it back to you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, so up next, we are going to have Mickey Balter from Oriient present to us. He's going to dive a little bit into what a phygital store means, which some of you may or may not have heard about, but it's basically blurring the lines between online and in-store. And he's going to talk to us about how their solution enables phygital stores, again, the blurring of the lines between online and in-store, and bringing the best of online in-store. Over to you, Mickey.
Thank you for the introduction, Ronit. I'm really excited to be here today, and thank you all for joining. So the true power of an e-commerce website is actually behind the scenes. Every mouse movement, every click, every action is analyzed, and the data is used to make the experience more convenient and more personal. In the end, this allows dynamic, continuous optimization, which leads to high revenue and high retention. But in trying to adopt this approach in the physical world, you quickly realize that there's something missing. What is the user doing of a website translates to where is the customer in a physical store? Where do they stand? Where do they linger? Where do they walk? And perhaps more importantly, where don't they walk? So understanding the shopper's in-store location is a superpower, which unlocks the transformation from a physical store to a phygital store. It allows retailers to implement all the methods which have proven themselves in e-commerce websites into the physical store environment. Let's have a look at a few of these unlocks in more detail. So first and foremost, no e-commerce website is viable without a search bar. It's where people start, and it's the gateway to convenience. No one will scroll through endless pages looking for a single product. But in the physical store, that's exactly what we expect the shopper to do. In hunting for one product, the user has to roam through endless aisles. And retailers are actually losing opportunity because of this lack of convenience. In the phygital store, navigation gets the shopper in front of the product they want quickly and easily. No one has ever bought a physical item they can't find. So getting the shopper to the product is crucial and leads to a significant revenue increase. Moving on, let's have a look at analytics. Analytics has become synonymous with online marketing. Data is the new oil, and marketing has transformed from an art into a data-driven science. But in the physical store, retailers are mostly blind. They know how many people enter the store. They know what products go through the point of sale, and that's pretty much it. To know more, they have to revert to actual observations, shadowing the shoppers, or super expensive camera systems. Location data, however, allows retailers and brands to understand the path to purchase in minute detail, understanding where people spend their time, what captures their attention, and most importantly, it sheds light on the non-buyer behavior, understanding where people spend time but end up not buying. And this data is not collected just for the sake of hoarding it. Many e-commerce websites have perfected the art of contextual promotions. From the moment the shopper comes online, all the data about the current visit, past visits, and current engagement, is collected and analyzed in real time, resulting in a product recommendation with the highest chance of converting into an upsell. But in the physical store, however, all the users are bombarded with an endless parade of promotions, each targeting a very small subsegment, like Paul mentioned. This leads to ad blindness, consumer aversion, and marketing budgets, which are blindly invested into non-measurable, ineffective channels. In the phygital store, on the other hand, each shopper is presented with highly curated messaging catered to their specific preferences, needs, and personas. This leads to higher conversion and, more importantly, measurability and the ability to A/B test and optimize in real time in the physical store. Now let's move behind the scenes and let's talk about fulfillment. So e-commerce sites fulfill orders out of highly sophisticated technology-infused warehouses. They leverage technology for optimizing order pick times and order throughput. And physical retailers seemingly have a huge advantage, stores which can serve as a distributed chain of fulfillment centers. But this also has challenges because stores built for shoppers are not always optimal for picking. So picking 20 items in under 3 minutes is an effort that only Usain Bolt can achieve. Physical stores are difficult to navigate even for trained pickers, and items are frequently moved around. You also want to avoid congestion and having all the pickers clogging up aisles at the same time, disturbing shoppers. The answer to these challenges in a phygital store is a picker guidance system, which manages the picker workforce in real time. Using location, pickers can be guided along the most efficient route while avoiding congestion. Location helps you make sure that every picker finds everything and finds it quickly and efficiently.
So Mickey, I think it's obvious that e-commerce has the leg up in that they have very specific ways to measure the ROI of things such as personalized promotions, but how do you tag an ROI, or what's the bottom line benefit of an improved customer experience? Could you dig a little deeper into that?
Sure. So it's actually a great question. And I want to zoom in on what we think is non-obvious, the value of search in the store. We've actually run research and surveys into this problem with our customers. And the results, I think, were very dramatic. A staggering 30 to 60% of shoppers in grocery stores leave the store without buying at least one item they wanted to buy. This is losing a customer while they are in the store. And this translates into 3 to 5% of lost revenue opportunity, which in grocery retail is huge. And zooming out a little, each and every use case I described is its own source for ROI. So as I described, search increases revenue by 3 to 5%. Contextual advertising is 4 times more effective than traditional advertising. And picking efficiency is almost doubled by introducing a picker guidance system.
Thanks, Mickey. Another question for you is, can any store be activated? What's involved? What needs to be installed? Can you talk to us about that?
So the answer is definitely yes. At Orient, we help retailers transform their stores into phygital stores by unlocking the power of indoor location. And the interesting thing is, and the differentiator, is that we do it without installing any hardware. So no beacons, no Wi-Fi. We actually leverage Earth's magnetic field, which is everywhere, including every store you ever visited. It's like the indoor positioning system that you already have. We're just here to activate it. So a software-only solution, the accuracy is 3 feet, 1 meter, and offered in a very cost-effective SaaS model. It basically unleashes the power of location and unlocks all the use cases I've shown in one system, which is completely scalable and can be deployed across thousands of stores very rapidly.
Okay, thank you, Mickey. I know that we're doing QA at the ends, but we're seeing a repeating question over here. So I am going to ask you to answer it, if that's okay, before we head on over to Ariel. We know you explained to us how you track people in the store, but how do you know where the products are?
Good question. So Orient is not just about where the people are, but actually also where the products are. We learn the location of products by geotagging with our system, barcode scans, like those done regularly by store associates or users of Scan and Go apps, and even those done by robots, like the Trax robot that Ariel will show in a few minutes. So even for retailers that don't have accurate product location maps, we have a scalable way of very rapidly building those maps using an automated system which requires no extra effort. And that way retailers gain even more digital data about their store. So it's about where the people are, but also about where the products are. So now I'd like to hand it off to Ariel Cohen from Trax. And I actually have a question for Ariel. What are the top 3 challenges that emerged during COVID that will persist and will continue to see in retail post-COVID? Over to you, Ariel.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mickey. Great presentation. And it's great being here alongside partners, friends, and to see some familiar names in the audience. So to your question, Mickey, so the first challenge that I would like to highlight is the labor shortage, right? If you open the news, just last week, over 8,000 Kroger employees went out to the street on a strike just to get a better terms and a safer environment. This is one example of the new dynamic of the food workers across America and around the world. There is over 30% churn in distribution center, a lot of challenges in staffing, and we're not even talking about the gig workers, right? According to finance.com, we see over 46% of the worker participate in the gig economy in the one form or another. So labor is one of the major challenges. The second one, and Paul mentioned that, is the supply chain, right? If you go now to the stores, to a grocery store, fruit, vegetables, beef, juice items, cereal. Many of the items are not there, right? The National Grocery Association just reports over 15% out of stock. So that's a second massive challenge. And the third one, which also we discuss a lot about it, the e-grocery profitability, right? It's pretty clear when you go to a supermarket store, right? You are the picker and you are the driver, right? But when you order online, you do not expect to pay an extra cost for someone to pick it for you and for the delivery. And that put a strain on the retailer's profitability, and especially when the shelf is still the fulfillment center, where most of the fulfillment centers. So I think those three challenges, if you just think about those three challenges throughout the presentation, we would be happy to get back to them and see how we solve them as well. So Trax, at its core, apply machine learning and AI algorithm to the retail and the CPG industry. Via our computer vision platform, we can take any image from the supermarket store and turn it into a structured data to improve in-store operation and customer experience. So we established 11 years ago with the vision to digitize the physical world of retail. And today I'm going to speak about our retail watch solution, our solution for retailers, and also the dynamic merchandising, on-demand, and flexible workforce. So I would like to start with a question. Take a look at this image. Can you count how many missing products in the store? Oh, I see that our generous robot just told you the answer. There is 21 missing SKU, and that could be like a potential loss of 200,000 euros for the retailers. So if you look at this category, personal care category, tiny object, it's hard and it's going to take a long time to the store associate to capture that. And if you think about it, like if you have a deodorant instead of a shampoo, it's really hard to capture that. So this is only one example of one aisle, and think about the entire grocery store. That's a massive challenge. And this is the main challenge that we are after, right? Retailers spend hundreds of millions of dollars to monitor the shelf, right? Labor monitoring the shelf. And still, when you go to a supermarket store, 8% on average, right? Now it's even 15. 1 out of 12 product is not purchasable. And that caused hundreds of billions of dollars loss to the retailer. So, and when we try to think, what is the root cause? So where are the out of shelf created? I would like to point out three main areas. One, supplier to store. The second one is the backroom to shelf, right? The product is in the store. Someone just needs to restock the shelf. And the third one is demand forecasting and better planning. And this is where Trax comes in, right? As Mickey mentioned, the retailers know where what's coming into the store, the inventory data. He knows the transactional data via the POS system. But in between, the third piece of the puzzle, when we as a shopper go to the shelf or the picker will collect the items, this is still a black hole, the shelf data. And we call it, this is the missing data set, the shelf data. So how does it work? So we collect the data, we digitize, and then we have reports and insight. We collect the data via multiple of collection methods, via from sensors, robot, cameras, and then we digitize in the SQ level, and then we have the call to action, the report. We send mobile alerts to the store associate to fix whatever needs to be fixed in the shelf. So here are the example. You look at, so the robot, if you look at the robot, this is really good for a hypermarket store, can capture the aisle, walking in between the aisles, couple of cycles a day. We have the shelf edge camera, which became also very popular, can capture the aisle on the other side, battery driven, wireless. And we have the dome camera. We have the dome camera on the right, really good for open area, secondary display, produce, fresh area. Some of the retailers that we work with already have those. the mobile collection, right? We can leverage the existing mobiles of the store associate, and many of our CPG use that, and also on-demand merchandising team, people that can fix shelf issues. So we design all these methods to make sure you have the right collections and the accuracy and to fit into your format of store. So these are the benefits of the shelf data, right? We divide the use case via the downstream and upstream. In the downstream, we spoke about automate the on-shelf availability and increase the availability in e-commerce. We'll talk about it. And in the upstream, you can take the shelf data, ingest that, and you can get a better demand forecasting, correct all type of errors in the inventory, and in the ordering to make sure you won't, in the ordering phase, make sure you won't have over or under capacity. So let's double click on the e-commerce, and we spoke a lot about it. And about 2 months ago, we conducted a consumer research with Google, actually with Paul, and this is one of the numbers we found there. Over 41% abandon their cart if they don't have the missing product, right? So you see that and you're not go to the checkout, and 40% of them will go to another store. So what is interesting about it, right? In the physical store, what you see is what you get, right? You go to the store and you can get whatever when you are there. But in the online, the experience defined, but what is available. And this is really important. And once you have the digital shelf, you can tailor in the physical store, you can tailor the execution to drive the purchase. And in the online, you can just present what is available. And we know, so you won't have a nasty surprises. And practically, this is how the shelf data can help you from an efficiency standpoint, and how we can optimize, right? The picker do not waste time on substitution. When you have the exact item locations, right? To make sure you have the speed of picking. And you as a shopper, when you order online, right? Once you have the digital version of the shelf, they see what is truly available, and you won't have these surprises that we all have all the time when we order online. So I would like to have a real example from one of our clients. And you can see here, this retailer rely on manual processes. You see the paper. And this is an example from a tier 1 retailers, Auchan. And instead of the manual process, we equip them with this robot. And then the store associate don't need to worry about it, right? He's going to the back room, looking at the app. He's not even going to the aisle. And he can see, the robot can tell you what is missing on the shelf. And he take all of the product in the pallet and bring them back to the shelf, fix that in the app. And this is how we automate the entire process. And the results, as you can see here, are great. There is 3% increase in availability. As a result of that, 1% increase in sales. Think about dozens and hundreds and thousands of stores for the retailers, and the productivity gain. A lot of hours reallocated and free up so that the store associate can focus on what is important for customer experience. And there is another use case here with the price mismatches. We reduce the price mismatches by 70%. So to conclude with that, if you look, so you asked me why now, right? Why we need this automated on-shelf availability solution now? So you see, when the pub are closed, the shelves are empty, right? We all know that many of us are eating at home, and having eyes in the store, it's significant, so you will better prepare. The second solution that I would like to highlight is the dynamic merchandising, the on-demand workforce that we can send. This solution, Trax over the year added this solution to our capabilities. We established that in the US as of now. We visit hundreds of thousands stores every month. So many of the large stores that we all work with and familiar with, we are already there. We cover 96% of the metropolitan areas, and we can scale within days, unlike traditional agencies. So it's another. So we're not. So if you think about it, we're not just show you and surface you the gaps. We also have the activation layer that you can focus and fix whatever needs to be fixed. So this is the kind of the Trax platform. We spoke about the automation, automate the manual gap scanning, have the shelf data to drive execution in the store, and also show you what's available in the online for a better experience, and the flexible workforce. Once you have a spike in demand, when you have challenges, this is where you can leverage those. And we designed this platform just, if you think about the three main challenges we started with, this is how the Trax platform can help you address, and we are here in these challenges together. So with that, I'll leave you with this slide. As you can see here, Trax, so we work with tier one retailers and CPG, and we have a new round of $640 million from SoftBank and BlackRock to continue this innovation, to continue build relevant solution, and to address all of the challenges that we spoke about. So thanks, and I'll hand it over to you, Ronit, and for Paul.
Thank you, Ariel. Well, I certainly look forward to seeing one of those robots in store, pointing them out to my kids. Alrighty. Well, before we head over to our live Q&A, I did want to hand it over to Paul once again. And if you could take us a little bit into the future, Paul, and talk to us about what's in store for us, for retailers over the next 2 to 3 years. What may we expect from an in-store tech perspective, and any advice for retailers as they head on to their next stage?
Sure. Thanks, Renate. First, I want to say thanks to Mickey and Ariel for solving those big pain points I outlined earlier. Those were quite amazing solutions by Oriient and Trax. When I'm really thinking about the technologies of the future, I don't know if it's 2 to 3 years or whether it's 18 months. Things are moving very fast, and things like COVID and the never-ending variants are accelerating everybody's agenda. But fundamentally, the way I start out and think about this is I think you really start with machine learning and artificial intelligence at the center of everything that's going to go on. And then, of course, 5G and edge to be able to process in real time. And then layering on top of that, you have machine vision and you have geolocation. And then I think you'll continue to instrument the stores with other IoT sensors to really enable a broad digitization, or the phygital store, as Mickey has coined. My colleagues on the panel are solving really some of the biggest challenges for consumers and for retailers using these capabilities. They're addressing challenges where most of the labor is, most of the frustration of our customers is, and quite a bit of the cost. And those are critical dimensions. My kind of parting shot on all this is, it's time to lean in and remain agile. Focus on solving your biggest customer and associate problems. Most importantly, create a retail data model that enables digital solutions to build on each other, and it's kind of 1 + 1 is 6, versus creating a series of point solutions that you won't be able to ladder and scale. In short, seize this moment of disruption to accelerate. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers.
Thank you, Paul. Alrighty, with that little bit of advice, we are now going to move into official Q&A for the next 10 minutes or so. Give me some time while I pull up the Q&A chat and see what we have going on. Okay, so how is Trax different? This one's for you, Ariel. How is Trax different from other in-store computer vision technologies? Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you, Renit, and thanks for the question. And I see that it ties into two more questions I'll try to address as much as possible. So I would say against like other computer vision technologies, so we have true product detection, right? If you look at the example that I highlighted, we can tell like if this is a deodorant instead of a shampoo, right? And once you recognize the product and not just the black hole of the shelf, there is a lot of use cases that you can have, and this is one of the main differentiator. The second one is the hardware agnostic, right? We spoke about, and that's another question that I saw, right? We designed the right hardware to the store. If it's a shelf edge camera to this area of the store, and we know each format of the store is different, we can tailor the right hardware so you will make the best accuracy for your solution. And we know how accuracy is important. And the last piece is the experience, right, that we have with large CPG clients and other retailers, right? Through our factory, we have over a million images every day that we can analyze, and we can see them. So once you have a lot of images and you know this product, and we can scale, right? This is the challenge in retailers, just to scale to a multiple of locations. And this large tier 1 retailers have thousands of stores. This is how we differentiate ourselves. So if we conclude, we have the true product detection, hardware agnostic that can make it cost effective to your needs. And the third one is the experience and the ability to scale on a massive scale. So hope that addressed the question. Over to you, Ronit.
Okay, yes, thank you, Ariel. This next one is for Mickey. It's kind of along the same lines. How is your specific solution so accurate within 3 feet of accuracy as compared to other solutions? What makes yours the most accurate?
So we are a deep tech company, and actually the physics behind how we do in-store location is very different than the previous generations of technology, which mostly revolved around Bluetooth beacons and Wi-Fi. So Earth's magnetic field is a much more stable phenomena, with a lot less interference from the shelves, from all the metal moving in the store environment. And that is actually the source for the robustness and the stability of the solution, which transforms into very high accuracy.
Okay, thank you for that, Mickey. Alrighty, I see another question coming in for Trax. So over to you again, Ariel, on how the Trax solution is used for labor and workforce management specifically.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes, how is the Trax solution used for store labor and workforce management?
So making sure I understand the question correctly. So how do I solution? Can you repeat again? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So how does your solution enable better tracking of labor and workforce, and how does it impact labor and workforce management?
Great. So we spoke about how we have the shelf data for your store, and we also have the labor that we can send to address specific needs, right? So if you look, so based on our solution, right, every challenge that we have in the store, we can send someone to address this on demand, right? And this is how we send like our workforce and the shelf capacity. And once you equip with the data, the shelf data that we have, this is how we address some of the challenges. Again, I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, but I hope that's good.
That sounded great to me, Ariel. And Paul, any insight into what the most funnest, most unique in-store technology you've seen come up over the past 12 months, aside from what we've touched upon here today?
Well, I would cheat. I would say both of my colleagues have some of the most fun stuff. To be able to navigate through the store and be able to find an item without having to ask an associate is a phenomenally fun experience. I feel empowered. And the fact that Orient got that all set up in a matter of a couple of days for us was phenomenal. And then being able to be in stock and get what I buy is kind of phenomenal. From what Ariel and Trax is doing. I sound like a rolling commercial, but I think if you haven't got those solutions in your stores, then I suspect that you'd be well rewarded for doing that before we talk about the next fun thing coming. Everybody wants to talk about the sexy just walk out store where let's work in 2022 and get these things in place to really dramatically change how customers can shop your store and how associates can interact. And I love how you can bridge Trax solution right into the associate capability apps and be able to direct their activities without having to waste their time, going and trying to figure out what open slots are or how to merchandise something. So I can go on and discuss the virtues of these solutions. And of course, Google Cloud's powering it all, but I just think they're phenomenal.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Now I have a question that actually applies to both Trax and Orient. So maybe we'll let Mickey answer first and then over to Ariel. So if you could expand on some of the other possible use cases that your solutions apply to, over to you, Mickey, first, and then we'll apply the same question to Trax.
So basically we get, we talk to a lot of retailers, and each retailer has their own priorities and they come up with cool solutions. So I think one nice element of location, for example, is to have a shopping list that gets sorted as you walk through the store according to the items that are closest to you. That's one cool use case we've seen, and we've actually heard about that from a customer. And another, I think, is the way to do the gamification. So you can think of Pokemon Go games in the store, where kids can engage with the store, parents can keep their kids busy, all using the power of location.
Yes, that sounds awesome. What about you, Ariel? What other use cases can the Trax solution jump into?
Yeah, thanks, Renee. So again, at its core, we said automate on-shelf availability and availability use cases. We mentioned briefly the price mismatches, right? To make sure you have the price compliance. I would add two things. So one is the promotion compliance and planogram compliance. And the last one that I can highlight is the supply chain, right? You have our data to make sure the ordering is much more accurate. I think that's another benefit. Once you have this data, many of the retailers already have their own demand forecasting systems, and you add this third piece of the puzzle, this data into the forecast model, and that can correct many of the errors in the inventory and also make the ordering much more accurate, which is significant. So hope that answered the question.
Yep, that's great. Thank you, Ariel. So a little bit of information before we hand over some time back to everybody, since we finished off a bit early. We will be sending via email to everybody here today, and even those who registered but were unable to attend. We'll be sending over a copy of the deck that we shared here with you today, as well as a recording of the webinar. Feel free to reach out to any one of our panelists. Their emails are highlighted here, and we'll be happy to answer any lingering questions or anything that pops up in the hours or days after today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here and interacting, and hope to see you for the next one.